Hi, welcome to Extended. Last week was the Dice Tower's Board Game Breakfast 100th issue. So I'm kind of out of sync here. I put up my version my Board Game Breakfast segment extended that matches the one that comes out today for 104. So I'm going to call that part 1. So if you want to see that one, go back and you'll find it, and it'll say part 1 of extended for Board Game Breakfast 104, and this is actually going to be part 2. So if you saw the segment, we talked about what paint is and what really all the components and all the chemicals and stuff that go into it, and the 3 actual binding agents and solutions and pigments and solvents, that make paint. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about how, towards the end of the video that I had done, how I was showing you how you can thin it too much and maybe leave it too thick, exactly what happens. So let's go to the board and take a look. So here we have a very bad drawing of mine, and basically what it is I'm trying to show you the surface of an actual figure, and how we're going to call this little dip here the detail. So all those little cuts and detail lines, and this is the flat surface on there. If you decide not to water down your paint, I want to show you what can happen. And by making your paint too thick, it actually fills in and comes over, and you can see how it just goes on. If it's too thick, it actually will fill out and start to take away from the detail. And the whole point of it is to thin it and make sure that you keep this level of detail. And that's why we thin out paint. A paint too thick will go in and actually fill this in, and there's no way to get it out. Unless you decide, that's going to be another segment. I can show you actually how to remove paint if you put it on too thick. But thick is basically really impossible, because it actually takes away the detail. It'll settle in the recesses and just cause complete bedlam. Now it's not like when we use a wash. A wash actually is very thin and will go and just very gently come into those recesses and be stuck in there real good and bring it out, and then when you put that layer of paint over, you'll have your wash in the recesses, but your layer of paint over on the high points. Now let's take a look if we thin out our paint. Same horrible drawing, but this time on a thin paint, what you'll have is actually a paint that will go over and actually, because it's so thin, come up and out and around, leaving complete detail but giving you complete coverage. Also, by doing this, it'll leave area in here to put washes or whatever you want to do to bring out the recesses of a particular model. Now, a thinned out paint can go on 2 coats, because if you see here, with it's such a thin line, sometimes the undercoat will show over it, and you'll still be able to go over it with a very thin paint. Remember, it's almost like these lines, very, very thin. Now, not taking too much of the recess away. So that would be almost like 2 layers of very thin paint. And then it'll be thickening up enough where you won't see the underneath, but still room to do your recesses. Now forgive me for my awful drawings and my poor illustrations, but I think you get the gist of what I was trying to accomplish by doing such, and by giving you examples of how a thick paint will fill in those recesses and those cracks, and then you'll just have a basic stick figure almost, where if you thin out your paint to the right consistency, it'll get in the grooves and still show the incredible detail of a model and give you a chance to highlight, bring out washes and other things. So now that we have a great idea of paint and how paint works, we're going to move on to something else next week. So I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And if you want to see the other episode, it'll be 104 Part 1. This is 104 Part 2 Extended. And thanks so much for watching. Be sure to watch Sam and I on Battling Brushes. We do our final Age of Sigmar, and then next Friday I am going back down to Homestead to take on Sam in Age of Sigmar, and then we'll move on to our next project, which I think everybody will be very excited about, and we'll be talking about that day. You also can have a chance to win that actual copy of Age of Sigmar that we'll be playing with. Tune into the live playthrough to get all the details. Until next week, I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday, and we'll talk to you soon.